The knock came just after midnight. 3 sharp raps against my front door. Heavy, deliberate, like someone testing how solid the wood was. I was already awake. My dog, Shadow, had started pacing near the window 10 minutes earlier, ears pricked, growling low at something outside. That was the thing about him. A German shepherd trained more by instinct than command. If he growled, I listened. I slid quietly out of bed, motioning for my wife to stay put. The house was dark except for the soft glow of the porch light leaking in through the blinds. Shadow pressed his nose against the crack, tail stiff. Another knock, this time followed by a woman's voice. "Open up! HOA business!" My jaw tightened. The HOA. Again. We'd had run-ins before, letters about my fence not matching the neighborhood aesthetic, threats over the small American flag I flew, and, most recently, a warning about Shadow. According to them, my dog was intimidating and disturbing the community. The irony was that Shadow hadn't left our yard. He barked when strangers walked too close to the fence, yes, but that's what dogs do. I approached the door, staying in the shadows. Through the peephole, I saw her, Linda Graves, the HOA president, better known by the neighbors as the Queen of Rules. Her posture was rigid, clipboard in hand, lips pursed. Behind her stood 2 men in plain black jackets, one holding a flashlight, sweeping it slowly across my lawn. Not security, not police, just muscle. I cracked the door, but left the chain on. "Middle of the night, Linda? Must be serious." She sniffed like she'd smelled something foul. "Your dog was reported again. Aggressive behavior. If it happens one more time, we'll have animal control remove him." Shadow growled, low and steady. The men behind her shifted their weight, watching me without blinking. I leaned closer, my voice quiet. "You don't bring fake goons to my door over a barking dog. Try this again, and you'll regret it." Her eyes flickered, a flash of uncertainty, but then hardened. "You think you're untouchable? We'll see." She turned on her heel, the 2 men trailing her back down my driveway. Their flashlight lingered on my front windows, as though marking something. I didn't go back to bed. I sat in the dark living room, Shadow at my side, waiting. At 2 a.m., headlights rolled to a stop in front of my house. The headlights didn't move. They just sat there, cutting through the blinds like a pair of unblinking eyes. Shadow stayed pressed to the window, low growl vibrating through his chest. I lifted the blinds just enough to see. Same black SUV that had dropped off Linda's assistance. No plates on the front, just idling, waiting. I didn't step outside. That's what they wanted. For me to get riled up, make a mistake. Instead, I watched, memorizing every detail. At 2:37 a.m., the SUV finally pulled away, slow, deliberate, like a wolf circling back into the woods. The next morning, the harassment escalated. A notice was taped to my front door in bold red ink. Final warning, remove aggressive animal immediately or face $1,000 fine. I crumpled it in my fist. Shadow sat by my feet, tail thumping once, as if he knew the fight wasn't his. It was mine. By noon, whispers started spreading through the neighborhood. At the mailbox, Mrs. Hanson, an older widow down the block, leaned close. "Careful, son. Linda's been telling folks your dog snapped at a child. People are scared." I stared at her. "Shadow's never left my yard. You know that." She nodded, guilty. "I know, but not everyone's brave enough to say it." That's how the HOA worked, through fear and rumor. A few neighbors avoided eye contact altogether, but I also noticed others. The quiet nods, the small gestures of support. One MA, and across the street gave me a look that said, "I know they're lying." That night, the SUV returned. Same headlights, same slow approach. This time, it didn't stop in front of my house. It crawled by, turned around at the cul-de-sac, and then parked 3 houses down. Shadow barked hard, sharp enough to wake my wife. "They're not going to stop, are they?" she whispered. "No," I said flatly. "Not until they push this as far as it can go." The next day, 2 men in reflective vests walked my yard with clipboards, snapping photos of Shadow through the fence. I stepped out onto the porch. "You got a warrant? You got permission to be on my property?" One of them smirked. "HOA authority, sir." Wrong answer. They backed off, slowly, casually, but not before one of them raised his phone and snapped a photo of me, standing on my own porch, fists clenched. "What would you do if your HOA tried this?" Comment below. That night, the SUV came back again, Only this time, it wasn't alone. Two sets of headlights stopped at the end of my driveway. Two vehicles this time. The SUV from before and a pickup truck I didn't recognize. Both idled at the end of my driveway, engines low, steady, and menacing. I killed the house lights. Shadow pressed against the glass, hackles raised, barking hard now. My wife whispered from the hall, "Should I call the sheriff?" "Not yet," I said. "Let's see how far they think they can take this." The truck's doors opened. Two men stepped out, dressed in black jackets again, but this time they wore shiny badges clipped to their belts. Not police badges, cheap knockoffs that wouldn't fool anyone up close. But from the sidewalk, under the street lamp, they'd look real enough. One of them shouted, "We're with neighborhood enforcement. Step outside." I didn't move. I just watched as they walked right up my driveway, their boots crunching on the gravel. One flicked on a flashlight, shining it directly into my living room. "Window." "Sir," he barked, "we have reports of an aggressive animal. You need to surrender the dog." Shadow went wild, slamming his body against the door. I laid a hand on his collar, steadying him. My pulse slowed, not sped up. Old habits, my training kicked in. Observe, control your breathing. Don't give them what they want. From the corner house, I saw blinds shift. A neighbor peeked out, then disappeared. No one was going to intervene. Not yet. The man with the fake badge stepped right onto my porch and tried the doorknob. That was it. I snapped the deadbolt loud enough for him to hear. He froze, glanced at his partner, then he leaned close to the door. "If you don't cooperate, we'll get animal control and law enforcement involved. That dog will be gone by morning." I let silence hang for a beat. Then I spoke through the wood. "Try my door again, and you'll regret it." He smirked. I could hear it in his voice. "Is that a threat?" I stepped closer, Shadow growling at my side. "It's a promise." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, finally, they backed off the porch, but not before scratching something into the wood of my front post with a key. A mark. A warning. When their engines finally roared and the vehicles pulled away, I opened the door just enough to see. Carved into the paint was one word, jagged and deliberate. Removed. The message was clear, and I knew what was coming next. A direct showdown. By the next evening, I was done waiting. I called my brother, sheriff's deputy, 10 years on the job. He didn't ask many questions, just listened while I explained. His voice was calm, steady. "Stay ready. Don't open that door for anyone who can't show real credentials. I'll be close." It didn't take long. At 11:58 p.m., the SUV and the same pickup rolled back into the cul-de-sac. This time, 4 men got out. The HOA president, Linda, followed them, wrapped in her smug authority like a cloak. She barked orders while the men fanned out, one circling toward my backyard gate, another heading straight up my porch steps. Shadow exploded with barks, throwing himself at the door. I flipped on the porch light and yanked the door open. Not enough for them to enter, but wide enough to make a statement. "That's far enough." The lead man raised his fake badge. "We're here under HOA authority to seize the animal. Step aside." I stepped forward instead, planting myself in the doorway. My voice was calm, cold, military clear. "That badge is fake. You step foot inside this home, and it becomes trespassing. Do you understand?" They hesitated. Linda didn't. She shoved forward, pointing at Shadow through the door. "That beast is a danger. I warned you this would happen. He's going tonight." I locked eyes with her, my voice dropping. "No, Linda. What's happening tonight is you're crossing a line you can't come back from." The man at my gate rattled the latch. That was it. The moment they crossed from intimidation to crime, I moved fast, barking commands. "Off my property, now!" They didn't move. So I raised my phone, hit speaker, and let my brother's voice cut through the tension. "This is Deputy Reynolds, Sheriff's Office. I'm 2 minutes out. Whoever is on that property better freeze." The men stiffened. Their fake badges suddenly looked a lot smaller under the porch light. Linda sneered, trying to cover the fear flickering in her eyes. "You think calling your family makes you safe? You think you can scare us?" I stared her down, my voice like steel. They thought they could break me, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. Headlights swept across the cul-de-sac. Real ones this time. My brother's cruiser rolled in slow, deliberate. The game had just flipped. Linda's face drained of color as the red and blues lit up my house. And I knew this was the moment everything would turn. The cruiser stopped right behind their SUV. My brother stepped out, uniform crisp, flashlight in hand. His voice cut across the cul-de-sac like a blade. "Hands where I can see them!" The fake enforcers froze. Their bravado vanished as the authority of real law wrapped around them like iron chains. The man at my gate dropped his badge on the grass. Another slowly raised his hands, eyes darting between my brother and me. Linda tried to talk over it all. "This is a misunderstanding. We were only here to enforce—" My brother silenced her with a single word. "Quiet." He moved fast, cuffing the first man, then motioning for backup. Within minutes, another cruiser pulled in, followed by animal control, real officers, real authority. They listened to my statement while Shadow sat calmly by my side, finally at ease, as if he knew the tide had turned. When I showed them the scratched word "removed" carved into my porch post, the officer's jaw tightened. That's intimidation. Coupled with impersonating law enforcement, they're looking at serious charges. Linda's face twisted. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president." My brother's response was flat, merciless. "You're a suspect in a harassment and conspiracy case, and right now, you're under arrest." They cuffed her too. The queen of rules, dragged off screaming about bylaws and authority, reduced to nothing more than a desperate trespasser. Neighbors stepped outside now, peering from porches and lawns, whispering. Some recorded the scene on their phones. For the first time, I saw fear leave their faces and something else replace it: relief. By dawn, the cul-de-sac was quiet. Charges had been filed: impersonation, trespassing, harassment, conspiracy. The HOA board, once Linda's kingdom, dissolved within a week. Without her iron grip, neighbors called for a vote. And the community chose freedom. Animal control cleared Shadow entirely. "Dog's loyal, protective, but not aggressive," the officer said, scratching his head. "Frankly, he's better trained than most of us." My wife cried when she heard, not out of fear anymore, but out of relief. Months later, the HOA sign at the neighborhood entrance was taken down. Just a bare post left, wood splintering in the sun. Shadow trotted ahead of me on his leash, tail wagging, the quiet guardian of a home that was finally free. I stood at the end of my driveway, watching kids ride bikes in the street, neighbors laughing without fear. For the first time in months, it felt like a community again. As the sun set over the cul-de-sac, the only sound left was silence, the kind of silence you earn after a battle won.